Please help my obeisances, all glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. So we'll continue with the discussion on ninth chapter of the first canto. We are resuming from verse 29. So 29. And as usual, we'll start with the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayet Ashtavrayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki. So, in the previous verses, we had discussed the anxiety of Maharaj Yudhishthir, the various the various trepidations that he was experiencing, and his reluctance to take on the emperorship. So, in response to that, Krishna gets him to Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev, in various instructions, he addresses the different concerns of Maharaj Yudhishthir, and Maharaj Yudhishthir is pacified, even though it does not explicitly say that. But we see the transition in Maharaj Yudhishthir, that earlier on he was in a mood of lamentation, that I'm not qualified to lead, I'm sinful, I've caused the death of so many people. And then one point he starts asking Maharaj asking Bhishma Dev about instructions on how to rule. So he makes this. He has this change in attitude, where he is now convinced that the right thing for him to do is to take on the rulership of the world, but he wants to be the best ruler. And so, understanding the position of Bhishma Dev as a great Mahajan, he's taking instructions from him. So, so we had said that the instructions of Bhishma Dev, which comprise the bulk of the Shanti Parva, fall in the three categories of Moksha Dharma, which is the Chaturpurusharthas and the Varnashram, and then the Rajadharma, which is kingly duties, and the Apadharma, which is how to deal, what to do in exceptional circumstances. And Prem Kishore Prabhu, if you can mute your phone, there's a lot of noise from your keyboard. Thank you, Prabhu. So, so the three verses that are quoted in the Bhagavatam are predominantly from the Moksha Dharma, where he talks about Varnashram, he talks about the Purusharthas, and a little bit of Raj Dharma. And they are just representative. Srila Prabhupada in the purport gives a little bit of expands a little bit on it. But really speaking, in the Mahabharata, there are almost 300 chapters with several thousands of verses that illustrate it. So in the Bhagavatam, the focus is mostly on Bhishma's interaction with Krishna, or vice versa, Krishna's interaction with the Bhishma. So we will continue with the discussion with 1929. Dharmam pravadasyatasya sakala pratyupastitaha yoginas chandamrityor vanchitas tutarayanaha. While Bhishma Dev was describing occupational duties, the sun's course ran into the northern hemisphere, This period is desired by mystics who die at their will. So Bhishma Dev is described as Chandamrityor. So Chandamrityor is one who can give up his body at will. And even though it's a great quality, and Bhishma Dev was benedicted by his father Shantanu because of the service that he renders, but Prabhupada mentions that yogis have this quality. The whole purpose of the yoga is to reach the point where one can leave the body at will, and the opposite, that one is not forced to leave the body unless they desire to do so. And that is why the yogis, they can live for thousands and millions of years. So Bhishma Dev did not have to perform mystic yoga. He got this ability from a benediction by his father, and so he is now seeing that the sun has run into the northern hemisphere, and this is a period desired by mystics who die at their will. So in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which really is the chapter in Bhagavad Gita which probably should be labeled as the art of dying, Krishna talks about auspicious and inauspicious times for giving up the body, and in 8:24 he says that that those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. So this is the period that is now happening, that the sun has now entered into the northern hemisphere. So specifically, the sun enters into a constellation known as. So does anybody know that what is this day celebrated as?
Sankranti.
Makar Sankranti.
Makar Sankranti. Thank you. So sun enters into the constellation Makar. So this is the Makar Sankranti. This is also called a luni-solar day, because this is a day in which the lunar and the solar calendars intersect. So generally the lunar calendars kind of move separately from the solar calendars, but this is one day that appears both on the lunar and the solar calendar, and it's a fixed day. So it is typically or almost always it's on the 14th of January. Once in a while it's on the 15th of January. So in the solar calendar, this is known as the winter solstice. Winter solstice. So which is the day after which the days start to become longer. And then in 2 days' time we have the summer solstice, after which the days start becoming shorter. So Bhishma Dev, being a yogi or being aware of this principle, is waiting for the Uttarayana. The Uttarayana, when the sun enters into the northern hemisphere. Now the acharyas also mention that this verse is a little bit out of congruence when you look at the mood of Bhishma Dev. So in the Bhagavad Gita verse that I quoted, 8:24, Prabhupada in the purport he writes that devotees in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or an inauspicious moment, by accident or by arrangement. So they don't care about whether it is the waxing moon, whether it is Uttarayana, whether it is the auspicious part of the day, because they've already taken shelter of Krishna. but we see that we see that Bhishma is apparently caring about this. So that's what is a little incongruent. That we'll see later on from the prayers of Bhishma Dev, how his mood is that of a pure devotee. We see by his conduct that he has full surrender, and yet he is waiting for something that is more material, modes of material nature. And some acharyas, they give this explanation that the name of the wife of Abhimanyu is Uttara. When Ashwathama, he discarded the Brahmastra at the womb of Uttara, then at that point Krishna, he entered into the womb of Uttara. We already seen that. We already discussed that pastime, I think in the 5th chapter. So one of the names of Krishna is Uttarayana. So Ayana means enters. Like Narayana is one who enters into Nar. So that is Paramatma. That is another name for Lord Narayan. Also it means one who enters into, sleeps on water. That's another name of Narayan. So Uttarayana is one who enters into Uttara. So Bhishma was waiting for Uttarayana, which is Krishna, and not really the Uttarayana, which is the sun entering into the northern hemisphere. And in either cases, the mood of Bhishma Deva is still the same. So the point that is made is that while the devotees are not subservient to the modes, but they're also expert in using the modes. So they will use the mode of goodness as much as possible in the service of Krishna. So if they want to chant, they'll get up in the morning and chant. Because if you look at it from one perspective, the morning, afternoon, evening, the difference is only the modes. Morning is more of goodness, night is more in the mode of ignorance. So recommendation to chant in the morning is more of goodness. Now you can say, what has more of goodness to do with spiritual activities? Nothing. But the devotees use that in the service of in the service of Krishna. Similarly, cleanliness, celibacy, speaking the truth, being regulated, all these essentially the regulative principles, they're all material. They're basically essentially elevating the person to the mode of goodness. So why do you get them at the time of spiritual initiation? Really speaking, because these modes they help in making one advancing. So they're not necessary conditions, they're not sufficient conditions, but they're conditions that are assisting the primary endeavor. Okay, we'll do the next verse, 1930. Tadopasamritya girah sahasraner vimukta sangam manadi purushe Krishne lasatpi tapate chaturbhuje purah sthiti amilita dragvidarayat. Thereupon, that man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings, and he fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men, stopped speaking. And being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, who stood before him four-armed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. So if you remember in our last discussion on Monday, we had discussed this topic that even though Krishna, Swayam Bhagwan, had appeared in front of Bhishma Dev in his two-armed form, but yet Bhishma Dev was praying that Krishna appeared before him in the four-armed form. And the reason Jiva Goswami explains is that Lord Narayan is the Ishtadev for Bhishma. That the mantra that Bhishma chanted was for the four-armed Lord Narayan. And the point was that it's not that Bhishma did not know, he was not confused about the position of Lord Narayan with respect to Krishna, but his attraction was to Lord Narayan. And indeed, most of the devotees outside Vrindavan are attracted to the four-armed form of Krishna. Vrindavan is different. There they have exclusive attachment to the two-armed form of Krishna. So Bhishma Dev, Kunti Devi, Arjun, they are all attracted to the four-arm because, and again, if you go into a little bit more esoteric details, that when Krishna steps out of Vrindavan, then he assumes the four-armed form of Lord Vasudeva. So Bhishma here in 1924, he had prayed that let the four-armed form of Krishna appear in front of me. And then in this verse we see that Krishna has reciprocated to that mood. So the verse says Adi Purusha. The original person appeared before him as Chaturbhuja. The four-handed original Narayan, Lasat Pitapate, decorated with yellow garments. So this also means that the Chaturbhuja form was included in the Adi Purush. So Krishna in his two-handed form was able to manifest the four-handed form because the four-handed form is included in Krishna's two-handed form, him being the original Supreme Person. There is one other place where we see the similar transformation of the four-armed form appearing out of the two-armed form. And does anybody recollect where does that happen?
Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter.
Thank you. So it happens in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjun he prays to Krishna, and then Krishna he shows him the four-armed form, and then he shows him his two-armed form. So this verse is actually, so if you look at it's a poignant verse. The man who spoke about subjects with thousands of meanings. What is that? That is diplomacy. So Bhishma was a statesman who fought on thousands of battlefields. He was a general, and he protected thousands of men. So he was leading armies. So he was a diplomat, a warrior, and a general. And here we see him dying. So such a great person who commanded armies, who fought on battlefields, who was practically for a long time running the entire world. He was ruling on behalf of the sons of Maharaj Shantanu, and then he stopped. So that is the nature of death. That no matter how vested you are in so many material conceptions, at the time of death, all of that is taken away. Now, Bhishma being a great devotee, he detaches himself. So either you detach yourself or it is forcibly taken away from you. Srila Prabhupada was fond of telling this story about, well, not really a story, I guess it was an incident, about a person who was very, very wealthy. And then his doctor, he falls sick, and his doctor comes and tells him that you have so much time to live. After that, death is certain. And then this rich person says that I will give you so much more money, extend my life. He says it's not possible. And Prabhupada makes this point that all the wealth in the world cannot buy you one moment more than what your life is prescribed to exist. So that's why in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he quotes, not quotes, but he actually writes the translation of the verses, the chapter 8, verse 5 to 15, Yam Yam Vapi, whatever one thinks at the time of dying, one becomes. Those 11 verses, 8:5 to 8:15, Prabhupada writes, and then he summarizes. The verse says, in the momentous hour of leaving his material body, Bhishmadev set the glorious example concerning the important function of the human form of life. The subject matter which attracts the dying man becomes the beginning of his next life. And Prabhupada writes this in italics for emphasis. So Bhishma is aware of this. So he's not thinking about the kingdom. And he had sworn to Shantanu to protect the throne. He's not thinking about that. He's not thinking about his accomplishments. He's not thinking about friendship or enmity, because he knows that that's what he will begin and that's what will carry into his next life. But the only thing that he's thinking about is Krishna. So in Bhagavad Gita 15 chapter verse 8 and 9, Prabhupada talks about how the subtle body in this life, it shapes the gross body in the next life. In the subtle body, we have desires. And based on the desire, we get a set of senses. Prabhupada will sometimes say that people who are very much attracted to water will become fishes. People very much attracted to meat eating will become carnivores, because all that has been recorded in the subtle body. The attraction to being in water, or the attraction to eating the flesh of other animals. And based on that, one gets a suitable gross body that can help them carry out those desires. Okay, we'll do the next verse, 1931, and after that I'll stop for some discussion. Vishuddhaya dharananya ata shubhas tad ikshayeva su gata yudha shramaha nivritta sarvindriya vritti vibham brahmas tustavajanyam vishrajan janardhanam. By pure meditation, looking at Lord Shri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by the arrow wounds. Thus, all the external activities of his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendently to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body. So this verse answers the question that what happened to Bhishma Dev when he had darshan of Krishna. So previous verse talks about Lord Bhishma Dev having darshan of the four-armed form of Krishna. And the result is that he was at once freed from all material inauspiciousness, and all bodily pains was caused by the arrows was immediately stopped. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, for a pure devotee of the Lord like Bhishma Dev, this illusion was at once removed as soon as the Lord arrived. Lord Krishna is like the sun, and the illusory external material energy is like darkness. The Prabhupada makes this point that some of the other acharyas also make, that from the point that Krishna arrived on the battlefield with Bhishma Dev, Bhishma Dev was liberated from that point onwards. So he was freed from all pain. So all this that is being described in this verse does not happen at this point of time, but it happens beginning from the point of time that Krishna actually came, which means that all the instructions that Bhishma gave to Arjun were that of a spiritually perfected person, because he had already received the complete mercy of Krishna. Now it's a little bit it to some extent it contradicts one point that we had made, and Srila Prabhupada makes that earlier on also, that one of the reasons that Krishna got Maharaj Yudhishthira in front of Bhishma was to glorify Bhishma and to make this point also, that his devotee may be in pain or agony, but his mind is always clear, because the instructions of Bhishma Dev are superlative. They are shastric, to the point, and we see Bhishma using that potent combination of giving Vedic instructions, substantiating by Puranic pastimes. So to some extent it refutes that point, and maybe both could be valid. But here Srila Prabhupada makes this point. Jiva Goswami also makes the same point, that from the point of time that Krishna arrived, Bhishma Dev was freed from all material misery, and he was liberated. Prabhupada goes actually one step ahead and says that Bhishma Dev did not even have to die to go back to Krishna, because he was already with Krishna. So he said there are two different events. The presence of Krishna in front of Bhishma Dev, that liberated him. Whether he stayed in this body or not, that was completely up to him. And this is a point that Prabhupada also makes for devotees, that when a devotee is advanced enough, then they're already in the spiritual world. They're already with Krishna, because they received Krishna's mercy. They may still have a material body, and that is up to them. They use the material body in the service of Krishna. They use it for preaching. It's not a prarabdha baddha. It's not because we have a material body, because of our prarabdha. As long as we have sins that are pending, we will get a body. So Prabhupada says that a material body is like a soul carrying a flag, or like in the prison jailhouse, the jailers are given like orange jumpsuits or that strap black and white jumpsuits, and basically they're wearing it, and anybody looks at them and says that this guy is a prisoner. He belongs to the jail. Similarly, our material body is like that orange jumpsuit, or it's like a flag saying that we have sins. We're still carrying sins. But that's not true for pure devotees. They may have a body, but it is not material. And Prabhupada actually in the purport he says, Bhishma Dev attained all these transcendental conditions prior to his leaving the material body because of the Lord's presence. And he says that is the verdict of the Vedas. So now in this stage, whether Bhishma was from the time that Krishna arrived, or now when he had darshan of the Chaturbhuj form. But in this spiritually perfected stage, now Bhishma Dev will begin to recite his prayers. So verses 32 to 42, the 11 verses, they constitute the prayers of Bhishma Dev. By most standards, they are short, but also full of realizations. Okay. So I'll stop here, see if there is any discussion.
Proji, I have a couple questions. So one from this class so far, and the other one is from the previous Monday's class. I was listening to your recording. So the question about this verse in particular is, so does that mean that, like, not feeling bodily pain or bodily suffering is the symptom of becoming a pure? I mean, so like, is a symptom of becoming a pure devotee. So is that like?
So not being affected by the pain. So I guess it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that they lose body sensation or they are unable to feel pain. But the effect of the pain on conditioned souls or like us is that it overpowers us. And for pure devotees, it does not affect them. So Rampal Maharaj was giving the example of Srila Prabhupada, and I think he was talking about his conversation with the Shrutakirti Prabhu. So Shrutakirti, as we know, he was Prabhupada's servant. And in Mayapur, he was saying that once he went into the room of Prabhupada and some business was conducted and he was leaving, and Prabhupada said, wait, just take this with you also. So Prabhupada reached under the pillow, he took out something and gave it to him and said, throw it. And Shrutakirti, he looked at it and he saw that it was a tooth of Prabhupada. It was a molar, but it was a tooth of Prabhupada, and that had fallen out. And there was like deep in the tooth was covered with blood. It was, and deep into the root of the tooth, it was like there was a big cavity that was blackish in color. And so he could have understood that this was actually a cause of a lot of pain. In anybody else, it would have been a cause of a lot of pain. But he said he had never seen Prabhupada complain about it. And also he was very casual about it. That just go and throw it away. And the Maharaj was quoting that again in this very context, that not for this particular verse, but similar topic he was speaking about, that it's not that that devotees do not feel pain, but they don't get affected by it in the same way.
I'm not understanding, Praji. Like, don't get affected. They do not feel the pain. They feel the pain, but they don't feel affected. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So let's assume that I have a headache. If I have a headache, then I say I have a headache, so I can't do deity worship in the morning, or I can't chant my rounds, or or I become short-tempered. So that means getting affected by it.
Is it not like giving more priority, Prabhu? Like it all depends on the subconscious priority, right? So bodily pain is one thing. Like we are not giving much of a priority for it, right?
Right. That definitely is a part. But not getting affected means that yes, not giving priority is a manifestation of it. But let's use another example, another kind of example, that of anger, right? And again, we can use it in the context of Srila Prabhupada, that Prabhupada was often angry on his devotees when they made a mistake. But the difference between the anger of Prabhupada and somebody else was, Prabhupada was using anger as a tool to serve his devotees. He was not under influenced by anger. So while he appeared to get angry, but he was not. He did not become angry. And again, this is a pastime that Guru Maharaj once shared with me that, and I don't know if he personally witnessed it. If far as I remember, he said he witnessed it, that Prabhupada was in a room in Mayapur and he was sitting with his disciples. The mood was very nice, harmonious, people were talking. And then one disciple came in and he had messed up with somewhere. And, Guru Maharaj says he had done a big boo-boo. So Srila Prabhupada looked at him and he chastised him heavily. You nonsense, you this, you do that. And the disciple, he was suitably chastened, and then he left. And then he left the room and everybody in the room became somber. The mood was kind of light and humorous. They became somber. They thought that, Prabhupada is angry. But he said everybody is surprised. He left the room and Prabhupada just stopped without missing a beat. He was like, again, so this is what, it went on like that. So it's like he became angry, but the anger did not affect him. So similarly, in this case, like it is bodily pain, but the pain does not affect them. So it does not stop them from rendering service. It does not bewilder their minds. So, and as Prem Kishore Prabhu is saying, it does not lead them to deprioritize the service to Krishna. Does that help, Achyuta?
Yes, Roji, that is. So it doesn't affect the body or the consciousness or bodily activities or consciousness, the day-to-day activities or consciousness.
Actually, you put it much better than I did. So it affects the body, but not the consciousness, right? So I could have saved 5 minutes by giving you this answer.
Proji, thank you for that. And the other question is from the previous class. So you were talking about Varna and Ashrama, so is it possible to change one's Varna based on, because we see that we're not in the, I mean, at least even during as we progress in our years in Krishna consciousness, we see that our natures or our swabhava changes drastically, and even during the day we are in different modes. Morning we're different mode, evening we're in different mode. So just trying to understand, are we born with a particular varna, or is it possible to change the varna? Like, how does that?
So yes, you're right. We're born. I won't say we're born with a varna, but we are born with a particular propensity, and that propensity determines one's varna. So we may be born with Brahmanical qualities, we are Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, etc. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes this point that it is better to discharge the duties of your own varna faultily as opposed to discharging the duties of another varna perfectly. He makes this point also, which means that he is discouraging the change of varnas. But we see people changing varnas, right? We see Vishwamitra, who was born as a Kshatriya, becoming a Brahman. We see Dronacharya and Kripacharya, who were born as Brahmans, becoming Kshatriyas. We see Karna, born as a Shudra, even though he's not really born as a Shudra, but for practical purpose, he considers himself a Shudra, becoming Kshatriya. So while it is possible to change Varna, but just like we cannot change our Swabhava very easily, we cannot change a Varna very easily also. And for a devotee, really, there is no Varna. So for a devotee, the whole relevance of Swabhava is that how do I use these intrinsic qualities to serve. So in a temple, you'll see that there are some people who are more Kshatriya-like. They take on administrative duties. Some people are more Brahmanical. They take on priestly duties. Some people like to clean the temple. So we see a reflection of the Varna, but they're all dovetailing their propensities to Krishna service.
Thank you, Bhava.
Thank you. Anything else?
Prabhuji, one question. You mentioned that the having a body is a symptom that we have material, that it's like a flag, that it's an embarrassment for the living entity. So we hear and we go, and again we will continue. We don't really feel embarrassed with our body at any time, like we think we are beautiful like that. But will, as one progresses in spiritual life, not for all, but at least for anyone, like will it comes a situation that he becomes uncomfortable within the body, or he feel like that really embarrassed about having a body kind of uh, attitude?
So when you make progress, then if you're making genuine progress, then the same body that is a cause of embarrassment becomes a tool for service. Right? So maybe there are some other aspects of embarrassment that, yes, I was at one point conditioned. I did at one point, like Yamunacharya's prayers, right? He doesn't talk about his body, but he talks about his desires that are coming out of the body. And then he says, my lips curl in taste, and I shudder at the thoughts. So it's more retrospectively. So that's possible, but yes, if you make genuine advancement, then we see the same body as something that we use to serve Krishna, which is why devotees are always recommended to take good care of their body. I mean, not to become obsessed with the body, but to take good care of it, just as you would take good care of the conch that you blow, you take good care of the arti paraphernalia, because everything you offer to Krishna is first class. So your body is being offered to Krishna, and that should also be first class. So in that mood.
So it means that anybody who makes genuine advancement, he will never be irritated with the body. He accepts whatever he has, and he will continue his service. Kind of.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, yes, Rangadas.
Haribol Sarang Prabhu.
Prabhu, when Bhishmadev said that he was looking at Krishna, he saw his four-handed form. Does everybody around, like Yudhishthira or Arjuna, saw the form as well, or it was only Bhishmadev?
So the understanding is that form was revealed in reciprocation to the mood of Bhishmadev.
It was not something physical, it was something mostly Bhishmadev saw it.
Reciprocation to Bhishmadev.
Mhm.
And a similar, later on in the prayers, we'll see that not this very point, but a related point will also be made. But in I don't want to let out Bhishmadev's thunder, but similar point is made later on in the prayer by Bhishmadev.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue. 1932. Sri Bhishma Uvacha Imati-rupkalpita vitsana Bhagvate Satvat Pungave Vibhumni Swasukham Upagate Kvachit Vihartam Prakratim Upayeshi Yadbhava Pravaha. I'm sorry, I messed up the meter, but we'll just continue. Bhishmadev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world. Excuse me. Although for him only, the material world is created. So this is the beginning of the prayers by Bhishmadev, and Bhishmadev begins by iti. Iti. So iti means therefore, thus. And Bhishmadev says iti so now you have to see this is Bhishma Dev, so far, Bhishma Dev was talking to Yudhishthir. The verses that preceded just these were verses by Sutta Goswami talking about painting a picture for us. Now Bhishma Dev has begun to speak, and Bhishma Dev says, Iti, that now that I am in this condition, what is the condition is referring to? That now I am at the end of my life. I am lying impaled on a bed of arrows. My whole body is perforated. What can I offer you? So Bhishma Dev cannot even offer obeisances to Krishna. So he says, what can I offer you? Upakalpita. There is only one thing that I can offer you, which is matihi. So mati is translated as mind. Srila Prabhupada translates it as thinking, feeling, and willing. So 3 aspects of the mind. And because Bhishma Dev cannot do anything, so generally it is considered thinking, feeling, willing, and doing. But mati translates to doing is more not the mind. Doing is the body, the karmendriyas. So Prabhupada translates it as thinking, feeling, and willing. That every aspect of his mind, Bhishma is now offering to Krishna in the present situation. The other understanding of the present situation is that now that I am freed of all my material sufferings. Now that I'm freed of all my material bondage. So why did that happen? We discussed that in the last verse. Because of the presence of Krishna. Because of the mercy of Krishna, Bhishma has been divested of everything material. Material desires, material aspirations, material sins, material antecedents. So he is saying, Iti, that now that I have nothing material holding me, what have I got left? What I have left is matihi. What I have left is the essence of my thoughts and upakalpita. I would like to offer this to you. So this verse is quoted in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as a verse that indicates prema. And if you'll also see what Bhishma Dev is asking for is rati. He will keep saying rati, that he's when he prays to Krishna, he's asking for rati. So rati is synonymous to prema. Srila Prabhupada says that this exchange of love, prema pumartha mahan. It is prema pumartha. So this love is the highest perfection of life. That Bhishma, Prabhupada says that in a lecture, it's not there in his purport. So he says that in a lecture, this is the highest perfection of life. So according to Bhishma, love means reposing one's affection completely upon one person, withdrawing all affinities from any other person. The causeless mercy of Krishna, the dust of his lotus feet, his prasad and association with the devotees are some impetuses towards devotees' engagement in transcendental loving service to the Lord. So we see that in the word-to-word translation, and some of these points I'm making to you because one is they'll increase your faith in Srila Prabhupada. One of the times, sometimes when we start wondering is, we see the verse, we see the word-to-word translation, we see the English translation, and we see that there is a gap. And the gap does not indicate that Prabhupada, if he could do the word-to-word translation correctly, he can obviously construct the English sentence correctly. But Prabhupada's English construction is, it also interpolates context. So I was once talking to Radhika Raman about this, because he said he was working on a translation. He had been commissioned by some university, I forget which university, to translate the Bhagavatam. And I said, why do you have to do this? Prabhupada's translation is already there. And then he says that Prabhupada's translation is there for devotees, not for academicians. Because academicians, they want the Sanskrit to be precisely translated. Prabhupada, he blends in the purport in the translation. It does not take away the efficacy of what it has done, but it is good for us to notice it, just so that if somebody asks us, then we can explain it also. So Prabhupada translates upakalpita word to word as invested, and contextually in the translation he says that which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties. So Prabhupada is deriving the context from the previous verse. So previously, Bhishma was glorified as one who spoke about 1,000 subjects and 1,000 battlefields. So he is one who is very, very materially invested. Now he is not. So the Upakalpita is pointing to that, which is why Prabhupada translates invested into, which was so longer engaged in different subjects and occupational duties. So in a way, what Bhishma Dev is saying, that my thoughts that were initially materially conditioned, but are now vitrasana, but they are now free from all sense desires, are being offered to you. So because of this context, the presence of the word vitrasana and the previous verse, Prabhupada's translation of Upakalpita makes complete sense here. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he, in order to unfold this verse, he does what he typically does, is that he has a implicit conversation, just a technique that he uses to unfold a meaning. So he says that an inquirer can go and say to Bhishma Dev when he hears this verse, saying that you're talking about your thoughts to Krishna, but there are many other people in this material world who also see Krishna but filled with desire. And Bhishma Dev says, vitrasana, but my thoughts are free of desires. So he's clarifying that the thoughts to Krishna are not materially motivated, but motivated by a desire to glorify Krishna. So then the inquirer will say that, so your thoughts are vitrasana, who are you offering them to? And Bhishma says, I offer them to Bhagavan. So these keywords, Bhagavan, vitrasana, they are all, and I'm going a little fast because I don't want to be too pedantic about it, but you will see that every word that is being unfolded over here is a construct in the Sanskrit. So the inquirer says, who do you offer them to? So I offer them to Bhagavan, which is Parashar Muni's definition of Bhagavan is one who has 6 opulences. So the inquirer says that, oh, I understand now. You're offering them to Lord Narayan. And Bhishma Dev says, no. I'm offering to one who is famous as Satvate Pungave. Again, this is a phrase in the verse. Satvate Pungave. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami, they translate Satvate Pungave to the best of the Yaduvanshis. So Bhishma is saying that I'm offering to this Krishna standing over here, who is the best of the Yaduvanshi, not to Lord Narayan, but I'm offering to Satvate Pungave. Srila Prabhupada translates Satvate Pungave to be the leader of the devotees, because Satvate is another name for pure devotees. So Sat is Krishna. Satvate is those who are invested in Krishna, and Pungave is the chief. So Krishna is Satvate, is Satvate. Pungave. So Prabhupada translates it as the leader of the devotees. So both point to the same person, that I'm offering them to the personality of Godhead. So then the inquirer will say that, but my understanding is that this Bhagwan that you refer to is actually Narayan. And Bhishma Dev says Vibhumni, that there is somebody superior to Narayan, but there is nobody superior to that person. And that is the person that I am offering, which is, again, he is pointing back to Krishna. So the inquirer will say, how can you say that Krishna is superior to Narayan? And Bhishma Dev says, Swasukham Upagate, that he is Swasukham. Swa means self, Sukham is happiness, and Upagate means that independent. He is fully independently in bliss. So this is interestingly a quality that makes Krishna, that he is fully independent. Even for his bliss, he is fully independent. Lord Narayan is dependent on Krishna. Why? Because Krishna expands expands into Lord Narayan. And Lord Narayan's happiness is dependent on the happiness of Krishna. When Krishna is happy, then Lord Vishnu is happy. So there is that dependence. Krishna, there is no such dependence. So the reason that Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur has gone through this conversation is to distill this point out of the verse, that even though Bhishma Dev's Ishtadev is Lord Narayan, but Krishna is the source of Lord Narayan. And Bhishma Dev is fully cognizant of it. So one should not, even though Bhishma Dev is praying to Lord Narayan, one should not use this to get confused. Sometimes people will quote this prayer where Krishna, where they say that Krishna came in front of Bhishma Dev and Bhishma Dev said that I'm praying, show me your 400 form, or show me the 400 form, which means that he's rejecting the 200 form, he's wanting to see the 400 form of the Adi Purush, the original Narayan. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is giving us the ammunition to firstly be convinced ourselves and also to defend. Then the remaining part of the verse, so these are the primary qualities of Krishna. In this conversation, the qualities that were enunciated were the primary qualities of Krishna. The remaining verses are about the secondary qualities of Krishna. Kvachit virharatam prakritim upayeshu yad bhava pravaka. So these are the qualities of Krishna relating to the material world. That he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created. So Bhishma Dev glorifies 4 primary qualities of Krishna: Bhagavati, personality of Godhead; Satvate Pungave, leader of the devotees; Vibhumi, great; and Swasukham Upagate, that completely self-satisfied. And then the secondary quality is that he from him the material creation comes, from him the material creation is annihilated, and for his own pleasure he accepts the material world. The bulk of Srila Prabhupada's purport, it actually expands on the term Satvate Pungave. So if you remember, I told you the Prabhupada translates this to be the leader of the devotees, and definitely it's a strong preaching purport. Prabhupada makes this point that the leader cannot lead you unless you're willing to be led. So Krishna is Satvate Pungave. But in order to follow Krishna, you have to become Satvate. If you're not Satvate, then you're not part of the program. How can Krishna lead you? Right? If the general is saying that let's go in this direction, you turn back and go to the other direction, what can the general do? So Prabhupada says first thing is become Satvate, and then you will get get directions from Krishna. And the process of becoming Satvate, Prabhupada says, does not mean that you just follow blindly the instructions of Krishna. Prabhupada says Satvate Pungave does not mean you become no desire. But what he says is that Prabhupada says desire cannot be wiped out, but they have only to be purified. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Gita 10:10. So this is the Chatur Shloki. Tesham yatata viktana bhajatam pratipurvakam. He says, it is confirmed by the Lord himself that he gives instructions from within the heart of a pure devotee who is constantly engaged. So in the later part of the purport, Prabhupada answers an implicit question that may arise over here, that if Krishna is Satvate Pungave, if he is only giving instructions to those who are his devotees, that means those who are not his devotees, are they leaderless? And if they are indeed leaderless, then how does this reconcile with the other verses that Krishna has spoken? In 15:15, where he says, Sarvasya Chaham Hridhi Sanivishto, I mean, seated in everyone's heart, or in 13:23, where he says, Upadrastanu Mantascha Bharta Bhukta Maheshwara, where he's saying that he's there in everybody's heart. And then Prabhupada himself, he reconciles it and he explains later on in the purport. For the ordinary man who wants to lord it over the material nature, the Lord only sanctions and becomes a witness of activities, but he never gives instructions. So that is the difference. That for devotees he is giving instructions, for non-devotees he is sanctioning. So he sanctions based on what they desire and deserve. But for devotees, he is actively giving instructions. So this also goes into our earlier discussion where we said that when a jiva becomes a devotee, then the position of the Paramatma becomes different. The Paramatma is not just serving out the results of your karma. Paramatma may be looking at that, but he's also looking at how to help you make spiritual progress. So he becomes, at that point, Krishna becomes Satvate Pungave. He becomes your leader. Okay, so we'll do the next verse. 1933. Tribhuvan Kamanam Tamalavarnam Ravikar Gauravar Ambaram Dadane Vapur Alakula Vritanana Bhajam Vijaya Sakheratir Astu Vyanavadya. See, Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the tamal tree. His body attracts everyone in the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp be the object of my attraction. And may I not desire fruitive results. So here, Bhishma Dev is appreciating Krishna's form. So the previous verse, as we'll see that in almost all the prayers, that the prayers start with establishing the position of Krishna. You see that in the prayer of Kunti Devi, where she said that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then the glorification. Bhishma Deva also, he started with establishing Krishna's position. Now he's moving to the glorification, and also to how he wants to relate to that form of Krishna. We also see the glorification we'll also see this trend of glorification of Krishna along with the residents of Vrindavan. So we saw that in the prayers of Kunti Devi. Right? Does anybody remember how was Kunti Devi glorifying Krishna with respect to a resident of Vrindavan? So in the prayers, you remember Kunti Devi was saying that you were tied to the mortar by your mother, and when I think of that, I'm always amazed. So she's appreciating Yashodamai there, and we will see that Bhishma Dev, which will be a bit of a surprise. We'll see how Bhishma Dev will also glorify the residents of Vrindavan in an unexpected way, and we see this at least in the chapter 7 to 11. We'll see this. So previously Bhishma had offered his mati, his thoughts to Krishna. So now he's elaborating, because thoughts are abstract. So now he's elaborating. What am I actually offering in my thoughts? So he's saying that may my thoughts take the form of a prayer. And what is that prayer? That may I have prema for the most beautiful charioteer of Arjuna. So if you look at this verse encapsulates the prayers of Kunti Devi. So Kunti Devi had asked, when we had concluded the prayers of Kunti Devi, so we had said that the prayers of Kunti Devi was basically divided into two asks. Right? What were the two asks from the prayers of Kunti Devi?
Draw my attention away from my family and kinsmen and towards you.
Yes, thank you. So these were the two asks, that give me material detachment and give me spiritual attachment. This verse, Bhishma Dev is asking for that. He is saying that may I not desire fruitive results. Anavadya. Maya, me anavadya. So ana means no vadya. No material desires. Give me complete material detachment. And then he's asking for spiritual attachment. That may my mind always go to that Krishna, whose bodily color is bluish like the tamal tree, whose body attracts everybody, who's wearing a glittering yellow dress. So lotus face is covered with the paintings of sandalwood wood pulp. Another thing that we'll notice in the prayer is that Bhishma Dev never uses the second person in his address. So even though Krishna is standing right in front of him, he never says you. I is the first person, you is the second person, and he is the third person. He's using always the third person. Why do you think he's always using the third person? It's unfair to you because I know the answer, so it's difficult to guess. But let's hear.
One guess, Prabhu, is because he is talking to Yudhishthira Maharaj, but referring Krishna. This person is like this. This person is like that. This is one guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Another guess is like
one guess per person. One guess per person.
So people are not confused when they're reading. I mean, when they're like in the future. I mean.
Okay, you're out of your guess. Any other guesses?
As a mark of respect.
Say that again.
As a mark of respect, I guess.
Not really. So, like I said, it unfolds later in the prayer. We get a preview of it, but Bhishma Dev is actually meditating on the form of Krishna in the battlefield. So everything that he says is addressed to that part, that Krishna. So that's why he's saying Vijay Sakhe. He's talking. He's saying that you're the friend, because in the battlefield there is Krishna and there is Arjun, right? So you'll see that Bhishma Dev. Sang Prabhu, you need to mute your.
Yes. No, I wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not in the mood like it's a ras. It's in the mood of just like the gopis and Krishna,
Mm-hmm.
and Bhishma Dev also has a relationship with Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he shoot his arrow, when they fight, it's like two lovers talk to each other. It's not like a third person who.
Yeah. I mean, the point you're making is correct. It's I guess it's not very relevant to the question I'm asking. I mean, whatever you're saying is correct, but the question I was asking is that why does Bhishma address Krishna in the third person, and the reason I was explaining is because he is in his ecstasy, he's actually speaking to the Krishna in the battlefield. So there is Krishna standing in front of him, but he's so attracted, and we'll see that in the verses, which we probably may not have time today, but we'll see in the subsequent verses that he's constantly meditating on that form of Krishna. We see a similar past. It's not similar, but one that has a similar mood is that once Srimati Radharani was sitting with Krishna, and Madhu Mangal came, and there was a bumblebee that was hovering around. So Madhu Mangal, as a service to the divine couple, he takes the upper part of his covering, and then he waves the bumblebee away. And then he comes back boasting that I've driven Madhu away, I've driven Madhu away. And then Srimati Radharani, when she hears this, she goes into ecstasy of separation. Even though Krishna is sitting right next to her, she starts lamenting about Krishna going away. And where has my Krishna gone away? And then when Krishna sees Srimati Radharani lamenting that he is away, he starts lamenting that he has gone away from Srimati Radharani, even though they're both right next to one another. So the reason I said that they're not similar, because those are symptoms of Mahabhav, which only the personality of Godhead can experience. But that mood is there. That there's so much attraction to the particular object of worship that it to the point that it excludes even Krishna himself. So Bhishma Dev has Krishna in front of him, but he's so much attracted to Vijay Sakhe. He's so much attracted to Krishna in the chariot field that even Krishna himself is excluded from that. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says, Arjun was always a conqueror because the Lord was his friend. Bhishma Dev takes this opportunity to address the Lord as Vijay Sakhe, friend of Arjun, because the Lord is pleased when he is addressed conjointly with his devotees who are related with him in different transcendental humor. So another point that is interesting, and because I'm elaborating on them because they said the mood of the prayer is that so Bhishma's death is imminent, and at the time of imminent death, he's meditating on his fighting with Krishna on the battlefield, and the reason is because of rasagraha. The rasas, they hold the devotees. So Bhishma Dev, his primary rasa is dasya. His secondary rasa is virya. So as you know, we have 5 mukha primary rasas, and then we have 7 secondary rasas, like hasya, raudra, karunya, and one of them is that of virya, chivalry. So in his purified stage, Bhishma Dev is very strongly held by his rasa, that of virya. So Prabhupada, that's why mentions that the eternal relationship of a particular soul with the Lord is evolved. A genuine relation of the living being with the Supreme Lord can take any one of the 5 principal rasas. It does not make any difference in transcendental degree to the genuine devotee. Bhishma is a concrete example of this, and it should be carefully observed how the great general is transcendently related with the Lord. So it does not matter that Bhishma is dying. His rasa is that of virya. And virya is that of chivalry, that of warriors. And that's what warriors talk about. This is what we did when we were fighting. To somebody who's not a warrior, it may seem a little odd. But they talk about weapons, they talk about the people that they killed, they talk about the battles that they fought. They say, I shot an arrow and that person's arm got cut off. Arjun once describes the battle, and he's describing that I shot an arrow and his arm got lopped off. And then after that, I did this, and then his chariot got broken. And Bhima is like, he's listening to it with a lot of enthusiasm. So somebody, it will sound like a ghastly conversation where one person is being maimed and the other person is saying, tell me more, tell me more. But that is virya rasa. That is the mood of warriors. And Prabhupada is saying that Bhishma Dev is demonstrating that this is what, when the soul is fixed into it, this is what one stays. Bhishma Dev also says that everyone in the 3 planetary system is attracted to Krishna. See, he makes that point also. So he's saying not just devotees, everybody is attracted to Krishna. The Acharya says it is true. Even when the demons are fighting with Krishna, they can't help but appreciate the beauty of Krishna. When Ravana was fighting with Lord Ram, then he could not but appreciate how handsome Lord Ram was. When Hiranyakashipu first saw Lord Narasimhadev, he was struck in wonder. Adbhut. He was saying, who is this fantastic creature? Who is? He knew that he was going to have to fight with him. So he was seeing in the mood of enmity, but he was amazed by it. When Kamsa saw Krishna, Kamsa was completely attracted by the beauty of Krishna. When Putna entered into the room to kill baby Krishna, she stopped at one moment, appreciating the beauty of Krishna. So these are demons, and even they can't help be attracted to the beauty of Krishna. What to say of others? So Bhishma says, Ananna bhajam vijaya sakhi rati astu anvadaya. So you'll see the word rati coming in very frequently in the verses of the prayers, where he's asking for love. So he's saying that may the love. So Anana Bhajam is the lotus face of the friend of Arjun, Krishna. And then he's saying Astu Anavadaya. We discussed that he's saying that may that love come to me, and Astu means may I be materially detached. So may I have the spiritual rati, and may I be materially detached. Okay, I'll stop over here and then see if you have any discussions.
Prabhuji, in the previous verse, in the purport of the previous verse 32, Prabhupada has mentioned that desires cannot be completely wiped out, they can only be purified. And then we see in this verse where Bhishma Deva is saying that may I not desire fruit. So so I mean, from the previous, from Prabhupada's translation, it seems like desires are the only thing that is in our hands. We can desire whatever we desire, right? Pure. That is what is in our hands. But here, Bhishma Deva is praying that that may my desires be purified. So ultimately, is it again dependent on the Lord for the purification of our desires, or how does that get purified?
So it's a good question, and I think to a great extent the answer is embedded in the question that the desires is the only thing that we have, because the desire is a symptom of free will. So that's the only thing that we have. We have the, we have the ability to contaminate our desires out of free will for material things, and to purify it by making our object spiritual. Bhishma Dev at this point, he is asking for Krishna's help. He is saying that may, or Krishna's benediction, so to speak, that may my desires not be contaminated by material. Which is why Krishna quotes, not Krishna, sorry, Srila Prabhupada quotes 10:10 in the previous verse. Tesham evanukam partam agyan jantima nashame bhavastu gyan deepena bhav. So Krishna says, I light the gyan deepena, I light that torchlight of knowledge through which the ignorance gets dissipated. So as in everything, but especially in spiritual progress, it is a little bit of endeavor and a lot of mercy. And Bhishma Dev is acknowledging that. So that endeavor has to be there. Like, like if you want to, I think I shared this once, or maybe in another group I had shared that, I have a friend of mine and he buys a lot of lottery tickets. So we were once driving, and I think at that time the Powerball was like $355 million. So he was saying, can I stop by and buy a lottery? And then I said, ironically, as the lottery ticket, the price increases, the chances of you winning kind of goes down because more people are buying the tickets. So I said, it's a big money. You probably are not going to, very little chance that you're going to get it. And then he said, but at least I have a chance. You don't even have a chance because you're not even buying, right? So you're making that point. At least I have some chance, which is greater than zero. So Krishna will reciprocate. So it's kind of like we have to put $1 in to get $1 million back. Of course, the analogy does not extend to that point. It's not gambling. If you give $1 to Krishna, Krishna will give you $1 million back, but you still have to give that $1 to Krishna. So effort has to be there. But yes, the cognizance of the fact that really speaking, it's Krishna's mercy and devotee's mercy that will push you over to Krishna's lotus feet. That is the prime mover. That cognizance has to be there.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Prabhu, I had a question about the thinking, feeling, willing aspect of the mind that you spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the willing aspect of that? Because thinking could be like thinking of Krishna, and feeling is developing feelings for Krishna. Is that right?
So Mataji, these four aspects are generally used in the context of performing fruitive activities. That if you remember that the cycle of prarabdha that is explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, from desires comes thinking, and through the process of thinking, they fructify into the point that you begin to feel that activity. And when that gets more fructified, it becomes willing, and finally it fructifies into prarabdha, which is actually doing or executing. So as I explained, the reason that Srila Prabhupada mentions it over here is because in the context of the verse 30th, where Bhishma Dev was talking, or rather Sutta Goswami was talking a lot about Bhishma Dev being very, very fruitive. And I won't really use that word, but being very materially vested. He was a statesman, spoke, of 1,000 battles, 1,000 warriors, etc. So one was very, very materially vested. So now he is withdrawing that thinking, feeling, and will. that those activities that were leading to fruitive activities, he's withdrawing that, and then he's investing his mind into Krishna. I think the question you're asking is that is there a parallel to this in bhakti? And the answer to this, at least for us, is yes, because most of our activities are sadhana vedi bhakti that are performed externally. So they go through the same cycle. They go through the same cycle of thinking, feeling, and willing. I'm not sure how does it translate to pure devotees. It's something that I haven't thought about, or I haven't heard any discussion about. But if anybody else has any thoughts on this, please feel free to share. Okay. Anything you want to add, Vidya Mataji?
I was just thinking, just like, I've heard Guru Maharaj say that, there is a spiritual mind, and so there is probably a parallel to material activities in the spiritual realm. I guess that answered it. Thank you.
Possible. It's possible. Like I said, I haven't heard about it. There's a special thinking, feeling, willing, doing. It's possible. Just that I haven't heard about it. Prem Kishore Prabhu.
Yeah, I was on the similar lines, Prabhu. Like a pure devotee, when he has that kind of a realization and consciousness, whatever material he does will be towards that spiritual activity, spiritual goal, I can say.
So if a pure devotee is thinking, feeling, willing.
If I can give an example of Guru Maharajas, all Maharajas, right? So our Maharajas, whatever they do materially, like whether it is writing books, if we desire to write a book, for example, right? So the goal here is to get everyone into a spiritual platform, right? So these can be termed as a material tools to enable everyone to go towards spirituality or elevate to spirituality.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. I think it's a nice illustration. That yes, I think even when we're doing spiritual activities, they probably go through the same cycle of thinking, feeling, willing, and doing. Okay. Any other concluding thoughts? Okay. If not, then we'll end over here. Thank you very much for being here with me. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Itai Gaur.
Thank you.